Come on, let's go.
12.
It's the Tifo Football Show, starring JJ Bloor.
You're on the cable. You're all tucked. Seriously, you're tucked bad on one of the cables. You got. Not really.
Yeah.
You're going to pull the tactics board over by accident. And you're still on it.
There we go.
What a great entrance!
Alex Stewart and your host, Joe Devine. The Tifo Football Show.
Just silent claps. Do silent claps like this. Don't touch. Don't touch at all. There we go. We all settled in?
Yes.
Now, welcome to the Tifo Football Show, the show in which we answer the questions that you have asked us before we film. And there's so many to get through today, just the normal 4. Now, very exciting times. If you'd like us to ask a question, no. If you want to ask us a question in the future, you can do so by leaving it in the comments below the video or tweeting at us, or however you want to get in touch. Do your best to get that question to us, and we'll do our best to answer it. But without any ado, we'll have none of that. Let's begin. Question number one comes from Harry. Harry here saying it'd be great if you did a video about how Liverpool evolved from a mid-table team to a team that were title challengers, because it appears, says Harry, that some fans have forgotten that happened. JJ Bull. I'm not sure anyone's forgotten, but, Harry, he thinks so.
Well, how did Liverpool go from a mid-table side to title challengers? How did they do it? The simple answer is Jurgen Klopp, but I'm going to give you a bit more because that's too short. Now, if we go right back to when Liverpool last won the title before Klopp came in, it's in 89-90. Now, this was Kenny Dalglish was in charge here. That's that long ago. As you can see, that's the last time they won. Before that, they won everything. They were first or second every single year for a good number of years, also winning about 4 European Cups before that. They dominated everything. Then, the end of the era, they fall away. Here they go, down to here. And we're in the sort of Roy Evans era around here. Michael Owen comes to prominence round about here. He's a very good player. Robbie Fowler was round about here. Drop down. Then Gerard Houllier comes in. Does quite well. He takes them back up to second. They're challenging, but they're still not there because Man United have dominated the league in this time. They've become the dominant side. This is where they were in second. Well done. After Houllier, in comes Rafa Benitez. Around this sort of time, they start winning cups again. FA Cups, League Cups, European Cups, the UEFA Cup specifically. A bit of a barren spell here. So the end of the era of dominance, in here you go here. Then they start winning things again. Now, Benitez's years does very well. Some good players that play there. You've got Steven Gerrard's come through. He's very important, obviously, a Liverpool icon, legend, whatever you want to call him. And then Benitez gets all the way to second. Well done. This is a sort of a recurring theme with managers, is that Souness managed second, then they drop around a little bit. They get up to second with Houllier, drop down a little bit, second with Benitez, that's where we go. Now, if we go into the last 10 years before Klopp won the title, this is the second for Benitez. Woof, and we're down here again. It drops. That's what happens. Then Benitez leaves because that's not good enough. They finished out the Champions League. So Liverpool were sort of a mid-table side for a long time. They're getting as high as second, but then they're dropping down again. This is what happened. Now, Jurgen Klopp joined the club in about October of 2015-16. He replaced Brendan Rodgers, and they finished 8th that season. That was Klopp's first season in charge. They finished 8th. Not a great start. Then they came up here. Here we go. So this is the thing, right? So how come Klopp was able to fix it when no one else could? There's a couple of key reasons, I think. The first one is that he has come in with a very strong identity. So the tactics he brought in were present from the first day. So he came in 2015-16, took over the Brendan Rodgers side, which played a 5-3-2. So you've got your 3 defenders like this. And then this is the kind of thing Rodgers does quite a lot, you see. He changed that to a 4-2-3-1. So the single striker, only 2 centre-backs. He used to play this at Borussia Dortmund. This is your 3. Your players like Coutinho and Daniel Sturridge and Roberto Firmino came in as this sort of number 10 here. That's what they did. But then the second season Klopp was in charge, you started to see more of the actual Jurgen Klopp team, which is the 4-3-3, and the tactics have largely remained the same. What's changed is the recruitment, and that is a second thing that is really important. So the tactics have been there, he's implemented them slowly, made sure the players understand their roles within it and how to make the system work properly, but the players have changed. So the recruitment is the best bit. So he didn't really sign anyone in his first season. In his first full season from the start, that's when he signed Sadio Mane, Joel Matip and Gini Wijnaldum. Hugely important players, just 3 key players, that's it. Only 3 at a time, not too many. Then the next season, he signed Mo Salah, obviously a great player alongside Sadio Mane, and Andy Robertson, a great recruitment signing at left back. He also brought through Trent Alexander-Arnold from the youth team. That's when his first full season properly was there. And he also had Virgil van Dijk bought in January, so that's key players. One of your main centre backs is here. You've got a key left back. You've got a midfielder that you definitely need. Your 2 forwards here are really important. Roberto Firmino becomes a false 9, very clever. It's starting to be almost there with Alexander-Arnold coming in. And then what you've got the following season is that he signs Alisson, one of the world's best goalkeepers, signs Fabinho and Keita, not one of the most important players. Actually, Matip I've missed out here, should be here. So he's signed all these core players. These are all Klopp signings. You've put Keita in as well. It's now his team. They've been coached to play the Klopp way, which is a set of tactics that we know works, and that's what's happened. It's clear identity, strong management. It helps, he's very charismatic. But that's what Klopp has done that no one else has done, and he's been given the time to do it. So that's how Liverpool went from being mid-table to title challengers.
Now I remember.
See?
Yeah.
It was all just...
That brought back so many memories that I didn't lose for any important reason.
Yes.
You know? Really valuable info to just take up space, take up space, take up space. You've been answered! Question number two comes from Vid Stropnik. Vid Stropnik says, what was Giroud's best season? And was he actually influential in France's World Cup win? Or is the talk of his hold-up play just conjecture from fans? Well, now who else could we ask this question to? A question that includes the word conjecture, other than Seb Stafford-Bloor.
Before we get going, remind yourself of the kind of players that Giroud was often following, or the ones he was compared to. So France, he was often in the squad in place of Karim Benzema, who often wasn't selected. Kylian Mbappe, here we go, Kylian. Kylian Mbappe was emerging at the same time. Ousmane Dembele, not really a forward, but a wide forward and extremely exciting player. Antoine Griezmann. Now, think of the same thing at Arsenal. Thierry Henry, Ian Wright, more of a number 10, but Dennis Bergkamp, Nikola Anelka. But it's difficult. The point being is that he moved into a difficult position and a difficult situation, and that affected the way he was viewed. And it means, well, it's one of the reasons why he was underappreciated. So France end up winning the 2018 World Cup. But they started badly, and actually they kind of laboured through the tournament. And one of the reasons for the bad start is they initially lined up in a 4-3-3. 3 midfielders, 3 forwards. They had Griezmann, Mbappe, and Ousmane Dembele toward the pitch. And there's a little bit of a disconnect between the midfield and the attack. And that showed in the first game against Australia, 1-1. Until the 70th minute, Giroud is brought on for Griezmann, and France go to a 4-2-3-1. And all of a sudden, everything changes. And we're going to go through a couple of those moments. Starting with Australia. So 1-1, Australia played really well. Hugo Lloris has made a couple of saves. France are labouring, starting to hear familiar things and complaints about Didier Deschamps. And here, okay, so the ball is at Paul Pogba's feet. Going to play a little 1-2 into Kylian Mbappe, move a little bit, ball's coming back to him, and Australian defence starts to react. If you see it on the replays, you can see a few of these centre-backs starting to bite and starting to kind of nibble at the ball, and Pogba bangs the ball into Giroud and starts to move. Now, what makes Giroud a special player is not just he doesn't just lay the ball off, he doesn't just bounce it back, he's not like a human rebound board. He's someone that can do clever things with the ball. So, takes a touch, doesn't just knock it back into this space, knocks it round the corner, oh, there's the ball, into Pogba's path. Australian defence is completely, it's fractured at this point and in a kind of frantic recovery mode. And as Pogba, I think gets to about here, covering centre-back, comes in, tries to make a tackle, knocks it, oh no, it doesn't knock himself over his own goalkeeper, knocks the ball over his own goalkeeper and it goes in. First VAR referral, not VAR, goal line technology usage in World Cup history, but it is over the line and France end up winning the game 2-1. Okay, so next moment. This isn't a goal, but this is very, very important for understanding Giroud's effect in the tournament. So this is against Peru in the second group game in 2018. Ball with Rafa Varane. He's just going to knock it's even game, so we're playing percentage football. He's going to knock a ball into this area and ask the kind of Peruvian defence to turn around a little bit. Giroud's going to make his run. Now, if you watch this on a replay, you know how much effect a single player can have on the shape of a defence. Both of these players, 1, 2, are going to be dragged towards him to try and kind of to cut out the long ball. Giroud is smart enough to see, in the background, Antoine Griezmann moving to around this position here. He's able to win the ball in the area and kind of fend off the attention of 2 defenders, both centre halves. He's going to knock it down, and Griezmann's going to connect on a kind of it's not quite a half volley, but sort of. And goalkeeper makes a good save, kind of unorthodox, weird save. But again, it's a chance out of nothing, and for a player of Griezmann's class, it's a good chance. And that's really the point. France had a lot of good players in that tournament. They just didn't have the right connecting pieces. And Giroud that's what he is, really. Very last point, and this is kind of why I think, controversially, France don't win the 2018 World Cup without Olivier Giroud. Now, if you remember back, a lot of these games, I know they won the final conclusively, and so that kind of created the perception of a dominant performance. Actually, a lot of their games were very narrowly won, and 2 of them, against Uruguay and against Belgium, involved set-piece goals. Now, it's kind of rough pattern of what the set pieces look like. But I think the key point, even though Olivier Giroud doesn't score either of the goals, one is a Samuel Umtiti header, another is a Raphael Varane header. The point about Giroud is because he's so good in the air, he attracts attention. So against Belgium, Samuel Umtiti scores from around this position, it's a near post header. But if you look at Giroud and look at who he's surrounded by, Vincent Kompany, Jan Vertonghen, he attracts markers away from similarly dominant players in the air. So France had, yes, Giroud and Umtiti, they also had Varane, they had Paul Pogba, Luka Hernandez in there. A lot of good players who are very, very good in the air, who a lot of defences don't match up against properly. So when you add Giroud in there, you probably create a mismatch somewhere. And not a coincidence either, that in the final, very first goal in the final, it was a Griezmann free kick from around this area. It ends up being a Mandzukic own goal. But again, Varane is challenging, Umtiti was challenging, and Giroud is in the area taking defenders away from the flight of the ball. And that's a very, very important point, because didn't score any goals, didn't even really look like scoring any goals, massively important. And I'm not supposed to say this, but you have been answered.
That was a good question, I thought. I'm glad Seb answered that.
I'm glad. I thought it was a decent answer too.
What do you give out of 10?
What do I give the answer out of 10?
Yeah.
100. Question number 3 now. Question number 3. It's me, Ben B. It's me, Ben B. Asks, why do teams always kick the ball up the other end of the pitch at kickoff? Well, that's a good question. Every team seems to pass it back to their DCM, who just hoofs it into the opposing half. Feels like they could just keep the ball rather than making it a 50-50. I mean, it doesn't feel a bit like that, doesn't it? But JJ, you going to tell me it's not?
I've deeply researched and expertly produced this following video to answer the question.
Is Alex doing this one? Or?
No, I'm doing that one.
Oh.
That's why I said I'm doing it.
He's doing it.
Confusing, that's confusing. Isn't
I'm
it?
not doing anything.
Well, let's judge it.
I'm just relaxing and learning.
That would be going by then, so. I think this is why teams always shell the ball forward from kickoff. Now, the rules used to say that you have to pass it forward, all your players have to be in your half, and you can only take 1 touch. You can't suddenly just take 2 and dribble up the pitch. That's what you can't do. So the ball would always go forward to this guy. He would then pass it back to a midfielder, and then someone else would charge up the wing and they'd get a direct ball to them. That's what kind of common pattern of play was. And the main reason for this is to gain territory. And Graham Taylor was a manager who was very famous for playing very direct football. This is what his teams used to do. They would pass it forward like this. They would go back to midfielder, who would then launch it to either chasing right midfielder or chasing left midfielder, depending on who's hitting it up here. And this lets you gain territory. It's like rugby, basically. This is the kind of idea, is you can push up here and get your team up the pitch from the very start. And if you've got players who can win the ball in the air, like big lads back in the 80s, 70s, whatever, they win a header. Suddenly you can contest the ball in a higher situation and you're more likely to score from these sorts of areas because you're near the opposition goal. And coincidentally, you're also very far away from your own goal. So very unlikely to concede. But that's it, you go at them from the very start. You're just trying to attack from the very start. Because as you will all know from having played junior football or Sunday league, or maybe you're a professional player watching right now, this is what tends to happen at kickoffs. You have the ball, you're playing a 4-4-2, everyone's just ready to go. This is everyone getting ready to go and chase it. And the referee blows his whistle, the ball goes like this, and then suddenly they go, rah! They chase you like this, everyone comes up. And so you pass it back, and then he chases you, this goes back to here, he chases you in, this goes back, they chase. Everyone's chasing, they've gone crazy, and maybe they win the ball, maybe you get back to the keeper, it goes back here, and then you've got to clear it up, because you're under too much pressure if you're not a very good footballer. That's what tends to happen. Or if you're playing for a team that I've used to play for, they get the ball and they score. That's one thing to avoid. So by putting the ball in the opposition area, you don't concede, you also get more chances to try and be able to attack. But there is more reasons, and those reasons kind of pertain to how you want your team to play. So you might want to get it forward, like Graham Taylor sorts of teams, or like the Liverpool teams of the olden days that used to dominate the ball and the game. They would pass back to here, who'd pass back to here, back to here, back to here, back to the goalie, and the goalie would just pick it up. He'd just pick the ball up, have the ball in his hands, and they can't do anything. And then you can build in whatever way you want from the back. Maybe you leave space in behind because the other team, as I said, will have pushed up. They'll be pressing or closing down, they used to be called. Up like this. And then you've got your goalie, you can just thump it over the top and you can start from there. That's kind of one reason. But that's because you want to control the game and be able to dictate things that way. But if you think about kickoffs in another way, they are essentially a set piece. And there's an example recently where Real Madrid copied a set piece routine that Bournemouth tried. And I'll try and show you how that worked. Now this team on the right, this is Fulham, this is Bournemouth, this is how the free kick went. Bournemouth play a diamond, or they did in this game, and Fulham were a 4-2-3-1. Now from kickoff, the number 10 here passes back to the number 6 here. As this is happening, of course, Fulham players start chasing to try and get close. This is what they do, they start to chase. In the meantime, the two strikers, the split strikers, Dominic Solanke, who's going to score, start making this run. This is what they start doing either side. Now, the ball goes to here. This guy chases into the 6 to try and get close to him. But Philip Billing, this guy here, moves into the space between. So he just would normally be here. A little subtle adjustment to here means that they can slip the ball through to him. He's now in space. Fulham are trying to get up. No one's really spotted what's going on with the two runners who are already going. And so the ball then just goes from this player over the top like this. He comes in here and scores with a really well taken goal. It's a really, really clever goal. And Real Madrid tried exactly the same thing against PSG from kickoff. Didn't work, didn't score, but the set piece was clearly in play. And it's just another way that managers try and gain an advantage. So the reason teams put the ball forward from kickoff is to try and gain territory, to try and get at the opposition team and keep the ball further away from your own goal, so you can maybe get a chance on goal. But the cleverer way to do that, rather than just shelling it, like they maybe did in the past, is to do something like Bournemouth did in this game against Fulham, which they scored from, and that Real Madrid tried to in the Champions League. Football!
Ah, the chip and chase. And some people say we share nothing with our American cousins. We do. It's the chip and chase. Anyway, you've been answered.
That sounds like it would be a good thing in golf, chip and chase, if golf became more of a competitive battle sport where you were able to tackle your opponent between shots. That'd be good,
You
wouldn't
mean
it?
like halfway down the fairway,
Fairway.
you can chip the ball, and once you've done that, you can charge your opponent.
You can't tackle your opponent when they're taking a shot, but once the shot's been taken, you can tackle them before they get to their next shot.
What purpose would the serve? The intent to...
Would you not watch that?
It would make it a lot more interesting.
If you have two golfers and they are smashing the ball, right?
Yeah.
And it's the first tee shot, woof, woof, right? You can't touch it. And then, whatever you want, you can either run to your ball and try and get the next shot off, or you can try and tackle your opponent out of the way. I don't know.
Can you hit them with the club though?
No, and it's not like UFC or anything. You can actually batter them, but you can just tackle them like in
impede
football
their
or rugby.
progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'd up the violence a little bit.
So you could put them into the sand trap or something. I don't know. Maybe there'd be other perils on the course.
I think with 25 extraordinarily wealthy people playing on a fairway, the violence is already high enough. Golf, huh? Because of historical inequality, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And ecological impact.
Yeah. I like Happy Gilmore, though. Good film.
Come with me if you want to live, Conor Gallagher.
Well, there we have it. That is the end of the show. Thanks for joining us today. And if you'd like to ask us a question for a future show, please do leave it in the comments below the video. But for now, from Alex Stewart, from JJ Bull the Bullard, and from myself, that's the end, is it?
Yes.
We're all done now.
Yeah, well done, well done. Thanks, guys.
You've done the thing before you push your hands out? Good. Keep them about this far apart. Push against my hands. Push out with your hands really, really hard. Really, really. Have you done this before? Really. Just go for another like 10 seconds.
What are you going to do?
I'm not going to do anything. You're not going to hurt. But when I let go, just try to keep your hands where they are, and then feel the ball, the magic ball in your hands. Okay, I'm going to stop now. 3, 2, 1, stop. Stop pushing. Now feel the ball. Can you feel it? Do this. Oh, you broke the ball.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do enjoy Tifo, then you'll probably also like The Athletic. If you watch our tactics videos, you should go and read Michael Cox. If you're into data, read Mark Carey. And if you're into transfers, it's David Ornstein. Plus, if you're a fan of any Premier League team, then there's a journalist dedicated to you, and you can try it for free for 30 days now by clicking the link in the description.